Can I talk a second about the gaming market, chat? Is that okay? If I just talk about the gaming market. The gaming market has changed a lot over the years. It's not the same that it used to be. So this is how it used to be. This is like the timeline, right? Let me like use green or blue or something. This is the timeline of gaming. So you used to play games. This is like completely different, but hey, we're on a tangent now. I'm a tangent kind of guy, so we're just gonna jump around a million different things. I don't care. Click off the video if you want. I don't know. You don't have to watch. I'm not forcing you to watch this. You can leave. Anyways, the beginning and the end, and where we are, and I think we're about like here. This is where we are. So at the beginning, Pong is made. Let's just say here, Pong Val. Back in the day, people used to play, basically, let me just cut this down. People used to play games for the gameplay. Nowadays, being a gamer entails much more than just playing a game for the game itself. So, there's a lot of reasons why this kind of happened. Social validation, human nature, all these different things, and why I'll get into why I think Valorant is successful, and they kind of encompass everything that is just genius, by the way, by Riot. But used to play games for the gameplay, right? It's like back in the day there was no online, there was multiplayer, but in terms of like for the main part, okay, yeah, sure, if you go to an arcade, like one of those box machines, like yeah, player 1 and player 2, but for the most part, I'd say largest audience, like take a game like Pac-Man or something, it's like one player, sure, maybe 2, but generally you play a game for the gameplay. You didn't play it for the graphics because it was like 16-bit, or like Pong, like is literally like fucking just lines in white and black. You used to play games for gameplay, right? Gameplay. And that was it, because other things didn't exist. There wasn't things like online communication, social media, friends list, skins, like gun skins, weapon skins, fancy graphics, or the whole culture and ecosystem with gaming, and honestly it wasn't as socially acceptable as it is now. Obviously now it's like whatever, just a normal hobby, but I used to play games for gameplay. Now let's just jump straight to Val, because I'm just an all over the place kind of guy. Now it's scary, because when I was thinking about this earlier, I realized that the gameplay is actually a very small byproduct, or it's a very small sub part of the game itself. Like, people don't play games anymore for the gameplay, which sounds insane to say, but hear me out, okay? Hear me out before you say, what do you mean you don't play games to play, what do you mean you don't play video games to play video games for the gameplay? That doesn't make any sense, Luke. What are you saying? Just listen to me, or at least some people don't. And I don't think that's a bad thing completely. It has pros and cons. I'll say what I'll give my opinion on all of this afterwards. Basically, I'm going to use Valorant as an example, because like I said, is what I'm most familiar with and the best example, and I was just thinking about it earlier. There's so many things that come with the game Valorant, and I realized that, and like I said, I don't think this is a bad thing, but a lot of people don't play this game just for the gameplay anymore. It's for a lot of things that come with it. Things like... Oh wait, can I just type text box? Oh, is that a thing? Okay, things like, oh shoot, this is huge. 200. Nah. We need like 11 or like 36. Okay, so you have gameplay, but that's like that's the past, right? So that's what it used to be. But now it's things like rank, which is like status. You have socializing, which is like friend list. Then you have skins, which is like cosmetic stuff. Cosmetic. Fuck, how do you spell cosmetic? Cosmetic. Okay. And then what else do you have? Communication. Also just dating. I might have spelled something. Whatever. Who cares about spelling? Dating, which I know sounds crazy, but I'll get into that in a bit. And then you also have By the way, it's so interesting. I just want to talk about this. I think fashion industry, it's like interesting because I think Valorant has, and games in general, all games, not just Valorant, have really drawn from like consumerism and fashion industry. Because consumerism, because I think that there's basically people play Valorant. So there's a lot of people who only play Valorant for things that don't even have to do with the game itself. That's what I'm trying to get at. For showing you have a certain skill level, for like the pixels, the skins, the cosmetic effect. It's like going shopping, you know, or going to the mall, getting new clothes. Like, oh, this looks really pretty, or this looks sick as hell, or you know, the skin looks really cool. Oh, when I shoot it at these people, what kind of animation is this? Ooh, that looks satisfying. You know, it's like it's just interesting, right? Because it's no longer about just the gameplay. It's like a whole nother world marketplace. It's just yeah, and then the other part is the social aspect, right? And nobody is talking about this, but voice chat. Voice is huge, and not that many people I think realize this, but why voice is so important, right? So this is why gaming has kind of changed and why anyone can play it. Because it used to be gaming was kind of a small market and the audience was kind of limited to just people who like the gameplay. So like this is gonna blow your guys' mind, trust. Oops, can I make a copy of this? Whoa, oh no, I can't. So this is gonna blow your guys' mind. Let me just try to process this in my own brain. So you take a game with gameplay, right? That only applies to like a small audience, right? Because, and there's not a large audience for like, in terms of like a business model, because it only appeals to the people who play for the gameplay. But then what happens when you mix the gameplay with core human nature, desires and instincts, and just things that all humans like and enjoy, and combine the two together? You just have this insane, massive, like multi-billion dollar like business of just all these things, right? So instead of just the gameplay, now it's like these companies realize it's like you can throw in all these things, and this is just 5 random things I picked, but there's like 100 of them, and rather than just having a game that a small audience of say gamers enjoy, it's like suddenly you take a thing that all humans like, for example, communicating or socializing, and then you combine it with the gameplay, and suddenly your audience isn't just people who like playing the game, but people who like talking, right? It's like maybe you're not a gamer and you don't like playing games, but maybe you like meeting new people or talking. I mean, it's like food, right? It's like everybody has to eat. So if you like want to make a food business, it's automatically just gonna apply to like the market of every human being, because every human has to eat. Now, granted, it's not that simple, and maybe you have a specific kind of food that maybe only certain people like, but my point is that it widens the audience, right? So suddenly you have a game, but it's not just a game, it has all these things that appeals not just to gamers, but rather all humans as a whole, because all humans like talking, all humans want to attract. And by the way, I think it should be completely normalized. I don't think it's a bad thing to talk about e-dating and like people playing just for the sake of meeting new people, whether that be friends or for relationships, right? And you know, there's not that much science behind this yet, because technology and like our generation as a whole, this is very new, and we don't know the long-term consequences of things like meeting people just through online and games and relationships and all that. But it's like there's people, suddenly it's not just about the gameplay, it's about talking with people, it's about meeting new people, it's about I don't think people should have as much shame as they think, at least when it comes to just playing games for the sake of being attracted to other people, given obviously it's like in a normal environment and nothing's wrong or illegal or anything like that. It's like just a regular stage. But yeah, it's like all people, or, sorry, I'm saying all people, but like most people are at least like when your audience is especially like, I don't know, people in their 20s. I'm 22. Maybe that isn't the exact target audience, but I'm kind of pulling random examples out of thin air. But let's just say like you have people in their 20s. Generally, they like talking with each other. They want to attract other people, or maybe they're attracted to other people. And boom, you have a perfect setting to do that, right? And then Riot's really smart because they take all these things that humans really like by nature, and then they just combine it all together, and they create this whole ecosystem where it's not just about the gameplay anymore. It's about all these other things. For example, you have the skins. So they think about the social aspect, and now let's think about the skins. How does this tie into like the competitive human nature and social human nature? Well, you can share skins with other people, and you can show your status. Some bundles are cheap, but some are really expensive. So you can show, okay, not everyone buys skins. Okay, people don't buy skins to show how much money they've spent. Actually, nobody does that. But it's kind of like a subconscious science-y effect under the covers that people may not even realize, right? And like, I'm very bad at explaining this, so this may just sound absolutely ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's like all these things that nobody really talks about, or people don't realize what's at play. But I promise you, the people at Riot Games, it's like they consider these game design choices very much and very wisely. And you have to remember that Riot as a game company have made League. They made League somewhere along the line, and they took the 10 plus years of experience in League, and they basically applied all of that along with a bunch of new ideas. And like basically this is all Riot did, right? With League of Legends. It's like, this is basically Valorant in a nutshell, right? Is you take a game like freaking, this is what they did. Let's look for a game that's successful. Let's look for an already successful formula. You're Riot, right? You have League. League is really good, but it has its flaws, right? Whether that be that it's a really hard game to get into, entry level, or maybe it only appeals to a certain audience because, you know, League has a very fantasy effect. So, all right, we're Riot. We made a successful game, 10 years. A bunch of people like it. It's very competitive, and it appeals to a wide audience. But what if we can make a game that appeals to any audience, casual and competitive players alike? How do we do that? Well, let's start with the gameplay itself, which is only going to be a very small part of the picture, which is surprising because you think the gameplay is going to be big, but it's actually a small part in terms of like a business model, right? And a successful product. So let's see. Okay, FPS genre. Let's look at the most popular genre in the world. FPS. It's just undoubtedly just stats. Okay. What is one of the most popular online FPS games? Oh, well, there's many of them, right? But what has been long-standing? Tactical shooter. Let's think about all the kinds of FPS games and what that entails, and what every single FPS game entails. Well, there's single player, then there's games like with complicated movement. So there's all these things. Sorry, I'm thinking about it, and I'm realizing a lot of this information is unnecessary because it's not the point. But what's so beautiful? Why did they choose? So obviously they stole CS:GO, or just Counter-Strike as a whole. But why is this so genius to go with this product, right, as the base gameplay? There's many different reasons. One, why did they specifically choose like tactical shooter and this as their next product out of anything? Well, many reasons. One, FPS, largest genre in the world. Then in FPS, why specifically tactical shooter? Because it's easy to understand, entry level, high skill ceiling, and then not only that, okay, but now there's one other very, very important piece to the puzzle, which is the fact that it's not just a tactical shooter, first-person shooter, but it's 5v5. Why is that so important? Because that ties into the whole human kind of desire, all these like things. This is just huge. I don't know. I'll come back to it, but it's what I was talking about earlier. These like human instincts, these things anybody can enjoy. Anybody enjoys talking with each other, laughing, making friends and all that, right? And a team environment is perfect for that. By the way, there's a reason why like you see so many people meet through e-dating and Valorant. Think about it. 5v5 game, you're stuck with a group of 5 people for a prolonged period of time, half an hour, like problem solving, struggling together, playing against another team. You're forced to work together, And let's say you have a guy and a girl who ends up dating, right? It's like they meet for the first time, ranked game, 5v5. It's like you're forced to be with each other with each other in a certain place for a certain amount of time, and you have to work together as a team to overcome a problem, an obstacle, or in this case to win. And it's like you bond through that, and while you're doing this whole thing, it's like you're saying good job to each other, you're giving each other advice, all these things, and then that's how people like automatically get close, you know. So it's genius. Basically all these little things, like I said, they combine into this really smart kind of business design model. So most popular genre, tactical shooter, easy to learn, difficult to master, social aspect of humans, boom, you have base game underway. Now, how do you appeal to an even larger audience? Because now you have a really good gameplay, but then what you do is you have things like rank. I didn't even get into rank yet, I just realized, but it's like you have things like rank. I just realized my face cam may be cutting this off, but then you have things like rank, display your level of mastery. And this will draw on the people who want to show that they're good at something. So you no longer have just a casual audience, you have people that want to show that they're good. Or it's both, right? It's people that actually want to be good, but then it's also people who want to show they're good. And you know, that's why like being high rank is so important, right? Obviously, or cool for most people is like, because you can show your level of mastering that thing. It's like being like, it's like having a lot of money, or being really good at something, obviously, and or like having a college degree, or like, which is why, by the way, I always say this, being radiant is like having a degree. It's obviously not, but what I mean by that is like it has what's the word? Being radiant is, it's like showing, it's on the tip of my tongue. What's it like? Being radiant is like a token of, I'm so bad at this. There's all these words in my head that I want to use, but I just can't always think of them. So it's kind of annoying, but it's like it kind of shows, it's like having it'll come back to me, but basically I compare radiant to having a college degree, because like if you're radiant, it basically shows you're in the top percentile, you've reached that certain level of mastery and you're really good. And if you've reached it, then it's like proof that you're good, and it creates an incentive for people to watch you. And that is completely unrelated to what I was talking about, so let's get back into this. Then you combine things like, you take things from like the fashion or consumer industry, right? So you have a game, but then you because it used to be gamers and game design only it was mostly people who just had a passion, right? But then you bring in the whole business aspect, right? Because now it's this multi-billion-dollar market. It's no longer just like Pac-Man somebody created in their basement because they thought it would be fun. It's like, let's draw on things from the fashion industry, the food industry, the social media industry. Let's take all the lessons we've learned from these kinds of markets and what's worked and what hasn't worked. Let's take all these business models and let's put it inside of gaming, which I know sounds crazy, but it works. So let's like take in these skins, these pretty things, this cosmetic kind of thing that looks really pretty, because again, like games are no longer about the gameplay, because back in the day you didn't have really good graphics, it was really bad, but now you can make things look really pretty. So this is kind of this new element brought in. Obviously graphics got good a while ago, but now it's like, yeah, they're really nice. So it's another part of the game. Again, it's not the actual gameplay, it's the fact that it's a lot of other things. That is a mosquito, let me just crush that bad boy. Anyways, it's like you have fashion, and then I said the food industry. There was something I thought of earlier from that kind of market that they brought in, but I can't remember it right now. And then also status, right? Which is the thing with rank, showing that you're as good as something, right? Or there's a certain level of mastery. And then social media. Everyone has social media. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I almost said Facebook, but nobody uses Facebook. And let's create a friends list. And then in the friends list, we're going to make it. By the way, Riot did this on purpose. I swear to God, they made it on purpose so that you can never appear offline or invisible. Because they want to kind of create that incentive that, be careful with your rank. Everybody could always see it. People can always see your game. People can always watch everything you're doing if you add them. So it's like, let's take the social media aspect. Okay, add in friends list. Add in all these other things. like your name. They have things like titles, banners. Let's add personalization instead of just name, because it's so weird thinking about it. Like back then, if you thought about a competitive game or sorry, just any kind of multiplayer game, it's like you have all these things. Let's make a way to show personality, right? For example, like fashion. Rather than the clothes you wear, what title do you use? What player card, what banner do you use? You know, what's your name? What's the hashtag? What's rank? All this personalization, right? To display like personality. It's all these things, right? And then let's also add a voice chat, which is the biggest thing, right? Because not the biggest thing, but really big, because now it's like now let's tie into actual human nature instinct, the fact that we're social animals, that we like talking with each other. Now in game you can talk with all your teammates, not just type, but you can talk with them live on mic whenever you want, however you want, with your friends or with your team. And then it's like, see how many things you kind of add into this whole formula, and then it's not just about the gameplay anymore. It's not just about this. It's about a whole list of a bunch of things that tie into other industries and marketplaces and things that are already really successful, and then you just put it on top of the gameplay and you just have a really successful product, right? And again, I'm using Valorant. Sorry, my nose is itchy and allergy season. But if you see me like touching my nose, just allergies. But it's just like Valorant's just one example, right? And every kind of game does things differently. Like I don't know much about Fortnite, but I'm sure there's a bunch of things they do as well. It's just like I don't know. I was just thinking about it. I just thought it was interesting the way the gaming market is, game design, and how it's an entire business now, and it's no longer just someone with a passion for creating something. It's like, for example, you take a game like Terraria, which is another example I'll use, which may seem biased, but it's just because I've played Terraria. A lot of people are unattracted or don't play Terraria. It's like, it's so interesting to me whenever I hear this, whenever people don't watch certain shows or like certain things or play certain games in this case because they don't like the way it looks out. It's like interesting to me because I think Terraria is like one of the best games ever made, but it's like I know so many people who don't like it or have never played it just because of they don't like the way it looks, right? And so it's like that's perfectly fine, but for a business and a big company like Riot, it's like they want to overcome all these obstacles and appeal to as many people as possible. So of course, one of the requirements to make a successful game that appeals to as many people as possible, where's my mouse, is to also make it look attractive to anyone on the outside, right? But anyways, I bring up Terraria because it's so interesting, because it's such a fun game, but so many people don't play it because it's also a progression game. So the more you play it, the more fun it gets, and the more options and variables there are. But it's like, to someone on the outside, you have this kind of old pixel art, graphics art style, which might look kind of silly, but just like people don't play. That's why it's so weird to me, because me playing games growing up is like all these things didn't really exist in the industry, at least not for the most part. For the games I grew up, it's like you never considered these things. It was just, is it fun to play? But now it's like people don't really just think about the gameplay anymore. They think about social status. What does it mean? Also, another big thing is, what does it mean to be like a WoW player versus like, I don't know, Minecraft? It's not just the game itself, but what that kind of game stands for or what it entails, right? If you're a WoW player, there's all this, there's this whole kind of community and just like ecosystem that surrounds being that kind of player, right? It's like, can you go around in public saying you enjoy this certain kind of hobby or thing, right? So obviously, like as a game designer, as a company, you need to make it very socially acceptable, which is a whole nother thing. But I think this is mostly psychological things. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with this myself. This is just my opinion on things and how I would create a successful game. So, yeah, I don't know.